Welcome to This Week on Main Street. Chris Owens here, along with Perry Williams, the president of our board of directors, and special guest, good friend of mine, Brandon Bennett, the director for Noblesville Parks and Recreation. We'll be talking about Federal Hill Commons as we enter the weekend here, and it's our last weekend for the farmers market out at Riverview Health. They have been a tremendous site for us for several years, but starting in May of 2017, we'll be just north of where we are on the other side of State Road 32 in a beautiful new facility. We'll talk to Brandon about that coming up, but quickly, guys, I want to reset from Friday evening. Had a beautiful weather, great turnout for the Fall Festival and soup cook-off. Thank you to our sponsors, Adler, Tessner, and Whalen, and Primrose School. We had over 3,500 tickets distributed. Somewhere around 50 gallons of soup was consumed. Who knows how many ham and cheese sandwiches by the Lions Club? I think over 300. And there were just a ton of kids active in our downtown. So it was a really good event. Perry, I know we talked about last year. It was the weather helped everything.
Oh yeah, I mean, weather's the key to all programs outdoors. Okay, and they will come when it's nice, and when it's not, they're not going to come. But with the situation we have, we are, doing outside events. We know that you only have a couple options. You can cancel it and lose everything you put into it on the fixed cost, or you can have it and hopes that some of the people show up. It's just one of those things. But this happened to be a great event. A great move by moving the hayride from the parking lot behind Sid's out front there on the courthouse square, because kids lined up and parents, and they rode that hayride like they had never been on one before. But a lot of those little kids probably never had.
A very good evening, and thanks again to all who came out. That brings us into this week, and tomorrow evening, the Bicentennial celebration from 5 to 8 p.m. in downtown. On the northwest corner of the square, we still have the tent from the soup cook-off up. And at 6 p.m., that's where you can find the Hunter Smith Band. Looking forward to them providing some music. The Bicentennial Torch will come into downtown about 7:15 or so. And I say we have an abbreviated program. It seems to keep growing, the number of people that want to talk as part of this event. But we do have a short program where we'll talk a little bit about the torch, introduce a new piece of public art that will hold the torch, and then at some point be repurposed into one of our alley projects that we have coming up. So join us in downtown tomorrow, 5 to 8 p.m. There's information on our Facebook page about what all's happening down there. And then Saturday, it's the final farmers market of the year. And again, it's been a good run at Riverview Health. We're happy to see them develop. But let's bring in our guest, Brandon Bennett. There are big things happening in downtown, and you've been kind enough to include Noblesville Main Street from the start.
Well, developing that piece of property has been a labor of love, and certainly as we started looking at the best use of that property, we tried to engage as many different community players as we could, and Main Street has always been a great partner of ours, and we knew the future of the farmers market was looking for some different locations, so it makes sense to look at moving it over to Federal Hill, and it'll be different. It'll be very different. We could talk a little bit about that, but we're excited to partner with you guys and bring it over to the new Commons.
Well, I think something that's unknown too, and Perry knows this because Perry's been on the inside. Really, this has been something that's been in talks for 5 or 6 years that really caught some traction about 5 years ago, and then 4 years ago, thinking back through things, that's when you introduced it at the soup cook-off in the alley. In concept.
Yeah, we started looking at concepts, and then it started finally taking off, and that's when we were really in the phases of going out and getting public input on what they wanted to see, and that's really what drove the development of this and how it was going to be developed. Certainly there's some changes from the original concept, really based on budget, and what some of the pricing came back on some of that stuff. But at the end of the day, I think we've got a really great product. As we continue to go out there and wrap things up in construction, the more I'm out there, the more excited we get about what it's going to bring to the community.
One thing I think that as we've been included in this process that I've really learned is prior to, and granted I'm not a lifer like both of you here, maybe 10, 15 years ago, prior to some of the other development that has occurred in our downtown, the west side was kind of a reach for people. And now what we're seeing is the White River has been cleaned up and activated, and people are engaging there. There's all kinds of activity on warm days, and even not, it's being used for fishing, and it's really an amenity in our downtown. This is a great step to activate that west side.
Absolutely, and that was one of the goals of the administration and why we were doing this project. We've got Forest Park in the, quote, downtown area, if you will. However, this project was more than another park in on the other side of the river. This was an economic development tool, and I like to refer to it as the heartbeat. It's gonna be what beats and spreads, pumps the blood out to other things around it that are going to develop, and we're already starting to see that happen. And so it was much bigger than an amphitheater that's going to be a common area and a gathering place for the community. It was the start to develop the other side of the river where, as you talked about the river being an asset, it absolutely is, and it's a huge asset for this community. But it has also been a barrier at times, and it's been what separated that side of the river, as you know, Perry.
Oh, absolutely.
Or that the downtown, the historic downtown, from what we hope to see the expansion of the downtown now with some connectivity in the future, and really starting to build a community gathering space that, like I said, can pump blood out to all the different areas around it and for more development.
Perry, jump in at any time. You're going to have to fight away for words here.
Oh, no. Yeah, I know that with you two. But I've never had a problem with that.
That's true.
The one thing I will have to say, I stopped by yesterday to take a few pictures, and Elena Schonkwalder and Brandon were out there at the new park. And so we took a little tour, and I was very, very impressed. I mean, it's a top-notch facility, and in my past life when I was in Tennessee, I got an opportunity to put in a smaller scale amphitheater like we're doing here, which ours is huge, okay, as far as size-wise on the stage and everything, and all the inner workings behind the stage, which is very, very important.
Which I'm still trying to figure out, and will be for a long time.
Yeah, but I mean, the one thing about it, it's top notch, because in the questions some of the questions I asked Brandon were things that I kind of left out because of space wise down in Tennessee, like on where's the area going to be for the band to change or to get away from everything, or where to be before they go on stage or when they take their break, and Brandon had answers for those, and those are all important because once you start bringing in top talent, the one thing about it, they are much more demanding on what they want.
Absolutely.
Even down to some of the situations I had down there, and some of the top bands, the type of drinking water, bottled water that you buy, so.
You know how those musicians can be, Harry.
Yeah. So they are.
I wouldn't call myself a musician. I dabble. I'm not touring anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Well, let's reset. We've got Brandon Bennett with us, Director of Noblesville Parks and Recreation. We're talking about Federal Hill Commons, and I think we've been fortunate to host an image that you donated to us out at the farmers market the last few weeks, really starting to look at use for the farmers market. But before we get to that specific use, I think a lot of the questions that I've had are, or assumptions maybe people are making, that the street dance or things that have happened traditionally downtown will just automatically populate to Federal Hill, and that's not necessarily the case. That's not necessarily our intent.
No, it's not. Whether you're talking about the street dance or the 4th of July festival or even the concerts at Forest Park and at Dillon Park that are so popular right now and have been for 20 plus years, we intend to maintain those programs. As a matter of fact, I intend on growing the concerts out at Dillon Park because the population out there demands them, and they're so popular. So we definitely see still doing concerts at Dillon, concerts at Forest, the street dance downtown, certainly in partnership with you guys. Because that downtown that we have, the historic downtown square, as you well know, because it's your life, is such an amenity and such an attraction that we're not moving away from that. Yeah. We're just simply adding to it. And so my team has really been charged with activating the common space, not taking away from what we're already doing, but adding to what we're doing. And that's kind of the trend that we're starting to see out there. And what we've heard from the public is they want more. And so it's our job to try and bring more. Of course, that means dollars. And so we have to figure out a way to go out and raise some dollars and do some sponsorships and those types of things, because we plan on having at least 10 new events next year at Federal Hill Commons, and that doesn't include whatever third-party rentals we might have.
Sure.
You know, whoever wants to come in and rent the space and put an event on or whatever, that's going to be an opportunity that we will have to manage as well. So by no means are we looking to replace what's already going on. We're looking to grow. As this community grows, we also have to grow, and that's what our goal is.
And when you look at the overall community engagement piece, people who attend the concert series at Dillon may not be really engaged in our downtown, but when they make the connection that the same group is doing a similar event or even a different event, they know the level of expectation or the level of quality that they expect when they go, and when they see that carried through, there's an opportunity to reach the periphery in Noblesville and help them engage with our downtown.
It's interesting what we've seen over the last couple of years. When we started the concerts out at Dillon, they were immediately a hit. I mean, it's just got a population, and it's almost in the middle of a big 5,000 person neighborhood, and so it was an immediate attraction. And then when we would do the concerts there, and then we move into Forest Park, the demographic was completely different.
Oh, absolutely.
And people weren't coming from the Dillon Park area into downtown. And we hope that with doing something like this on maybe a little bit of a bigger scale, with a different venue, that what you've said, that it will, we will get that outlying Noblesville population. And not only there, but as we look out east and how we're growing, we know that 56% of our population is growing east of 37. And so we're hoping to attract that population to downtown, which again will continue to make downtown a huge amenity that it is.
Well, I think it'll also add to us, especially on the street dance and some of those big events that we do, is for so many years in the street dance, we're kind of landlocked. Okay, I mean, we have the task every year of Noblesville Main Street of picking one band. Okay, and so as we were talking before we got on the air, everybody said, "Well, why'd you get that band? I don't like that kind of music and that kind of stuff." Okay, so there's always negativity to it, but we have to listen to our community and everything. Street dance, we may have a band downtown and then a different type of band at the amphitheater, different things like that. And, this is going to expand the opportunity for Jim to do different movies in different locations, because we're going to be losing that spot behind the judicial building there. So we have to be ready for all those, because his crowd for the street dance of having the movie back there has really, really grown, and the same way with you on the couple of movies that you do downtown too, that we may be able to do a little shift on, and
sure,
different things like that.
And we hope to expand. I mean, I think the key here is expand and not replace what's already going on in the community, like you've talked about, Chris and Perry. We want to take what we've got and make it bigger and better. And certainly we're going to need partners to do that. There's no way that we as a Parks Department can accommodate every bit of that, but we're going to have partners and sponsors and different groups coming to the table to help us out. But that's why Noblesville is such a cool community, because we have those partnerships and we have great businesses that support us and want and appreciate the true community that Noblesville is. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, is because we still have an amazing downtown that we're trying to expand now. We haven't lost that flavor. We haven't lost that sense of community as we continue to grow. And that's why Noblesville is so special. And I'm excited about the opportunity to be able to bring something else into that downtown area.
One thing that we've had a lot of question about is parking, and even with the parking study set to be released about downtown and what that shows, the one thing I always remind people is there's a demand for what's happening in downtown Noblesville, and there are a lot of communities that would like to have that. There's economic benefits that happen because of that, and commerce in our downtown that a lot of communities are struggling to see. So we've had a lot of questions from farmers market vendors and others about, well, what does this mean for parking? Folks, we've been very spoiled to have a market location where parking is available next to many vendor booths and just readily accessible parking for patrons of the market. That's not necessarily the case when you go to other markets. I mean, I'm thinking, even the market that I'm fortunate enough to attend in Sanibel, Florida, you got to walk to get there. And so I think that that's one myth I want to try to dispel very early, is that there's not going to be any parking available on site. I think, Jim, we have a couple images potentially to show as we enter this discussion, or maybe those didn't make their way over. So we'll look to put those up on our Facebook page. But we did our own internal study with what was available to us at the Riverview lot. And then based on the rendering that Brandon most recently sent, we're really only losing about 20 to 30 spots on site. And that, I say it isn't an issue, but because we have increased demand for the market, it becomes a bit of a challenge for us. By no means should it be an end-all be-all, but we need to talk about what other parking opportunities there are in downtown, and the fact that we've got a very walkable downtown area, and there's some definite health benefits that could go to some members of our community. So all that to say, we're going to be partnering with you guys, and I assume we're going to be releasing some videos on Facebook of different areas and routes to get to the farmers market. We've also talked to our public safety team about ways of safely moving people in and out.
Right. On a 6-acre property, where you're also building in enough space to accommodate a large group of people, certainly parking is a concern and has been a concern for us. But one of the things that we studied when we looked at this was, okay, how walkable is this property? And from that, the center point of the park, there's over 1,000 parking spaces within a 5 to 10 minute walk. And that does not include the majority of Riverview Health's parking. As we know, a lot of that's going away, but it doesn't even include the major parking that they have for the hospital. So there is actually a lot of parking available.
I agree.
You're just not going to be able to get out of your car all the time and be right there within 30 seconds.
Well, we got to remember, too, that the situation in taking Hamilton County as an example, I mean, we just got through with the golf tournament down at Crooked Stick in Carmel, and that wasn't exactly the easiest place to go to get to, walk, but they had huge crowds.
Right.
And what Connor Prairie does out there, try pulling a wagon and all your chairs and all that stuff over that type of ground, out there. I mean, so there are some inconveniences, and they'll probably be, I'm not saying inconvenience, but it'll be different.
It'll be different
for our people.
It's going to be different, and with anything new comes challenges and comes changes. But I think once we get into a season of this, people are going to start to get a feel for it. They're going to understand it. I mean, the layout of the market, for that matter, is going to be extremely different, which honestly, personally, I see as a benefit to the market, because we don't have the space to put all 80 some odd, 85, however many vendors you have, into just the market plaza there. We're going to have to spread them out around the elliptical, which is going to be a really cool opportunity, because there's also going to be a playground right in the middle of that. Yeah. There's also going to be a restroom right in the middle of that. There's going to be a shelter with a patio area right in the middle of it. There's going to be an events lawn. There's going to be a PA system that will cover just the farmers market or the entire facility, so we can make announcements. So there's going to be a lot of really cool advantages to moving to this site. It's just going to be different, and I think if people go into it with the understanding that, hey, we're making things a little bit better here, but they are going to be different, then everybody's going to be fine.
Well, it's all about the user experience too, and yes, that starts with parking and accessibility, but whatever we can do to educate people about those opportunities up front, prevent a little frustration going in. I really think the programming aspect of it is what really excites me. So it's likely Just looking at what we've seen, that we will have about 74 vendor spots on the plaza level, which will be to the southwest corner of the facility. When we expand that around the event lawn, that takes us over 100 10 by 10 vendor spaces. With an average weekly attendance of 3,600 visitors per week, the demand for the market has gone up, and that demand continues to raise the bar as far as the vendors that are able to come in, and as far as the talent that is able to come in. This year we partnered with Noblesville High School to program every other week for talent at the farmers market. With this public address system, we now have the option to mic those kids and take that throughout
Right.
the entire facility.
Right.
So it really, even on that basic elemental level of just the performance with them, it raises the bar and gives them opportunities that we haven't had in the past.
Sure. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting site. Like I said, change is a challenge sometimes. But I think at the end of the day, when we get through a season of this, I really think people, if they come in with an open mind, are just going to be really blown away by the experience. And that's the key word, experience. So we're looking forward to it. And are there going to be some bumps in the road? Absolutely.
Yeah.
We expect it. I think that it's how we handle it that's going to really make or break this thing. And knowing Main Street and Chris and a fantastic team that I have, we'll get through those bumps and come out on the other side just glowing. So we're looking forward to it.
And I think also that we're going to, obviously, like you said, it's going to be a real learning curve that first year.
Sure.
Because everything's new to
Sure.
everyone. And unfortunately, a lot of these things that we do, both groups, there's not a book that we can pick up in the library and read, this is the way you do it.
Right.
So, and also I think the city and the county realize that. So the concern about parking and traffic flow and walkability and everything, all those things over time will be addressed because everyone wants to make this a success, okay? And our people in our community are the most important part, and we want to take care of them.
Well, change isn't necessarily a bad thing either, and I want to let folks know that what we've done now, since we have really the plaza layout and the layout around the events lawn, is taken that and are adapting our current vendor list at the farmers market to that space. So we've assigned booth locations and are starting to work through, if we take the footprint of what existed in July, our busiest month of the year, and had to put that into the context of Federal Hill Commons, what that looks like. And sure, there's going to be a couple that we need to address, but like you said, I think it's all in how we handle that. And it's not like we're just kicking back and waiting until April to do so. No, we're out in front of it.
Right.
Outside of the market, there are going to be a few other events that happen there. Obviously, I'm a little narrow in my focus,
Sure.
but I know there's going to be there's a great partnership with First Merchants as part of this. So if you could touch on that, and then talk about the public art elements there that are going to be.
Well, we're working through the public art elements now. That's what I was doing out on site with Elena yesterday. I believe that the bicentennial bison, will find its final grazing place at Federal Hill Commons.
In the children's playground.
Right, around the playground area. We kind of found a location for it yesterday, and we're looking at some other art opportunities out there, because we really see this. Arts was one of the big things that came across in the public input that we got. Right now, we're trying to get the facility built, and then once that's done, we've got some ideas on some different art locations, and then after that's done, based on budget and where we're at, we hope to commission some other types of pieces to go into the space, and that's something I'm going to be working with the Arts Council on trying to get that piece figured out. And on top of that, then we've got, you mentioned the partnership with First Merchants. The city has come to a deal with what was the Ameriana Bank and then the First Merchants Bank up on the corner there, to get that piece of property, which should be a sponsorship deal that we've worked out. The stage will be known as the First Merchants Pavilion, through a sponsorship arrangement for 5 years, and then we will be getting the building and be using that for some of the things you talked about, Perry, green room space, some storage space, some office space, meeting space for the public. So there's a lot of different uses corporate event space that we're looking forward to with that partnership with First Merchants. So we're excited about that as well, and it's going to bring a lot of different opportunities for the property itself.
I think yesterday in talking with Brandon and his idea on the First Merchants Bank building and what he's going to do there, it's going to be an outstanding view if you're in a meeting room there, okay, and people come in and they rent it, okay, and then they move out in the summertime during the week and have a little picnic out there in the area, or there may be some music. I mean, there's just a lot of things that can happen that really excited me yesterday to think that, you know, all these companies now are looking for little corporate outings to get away, and nothing is going to be a better setting than that place.
It's situated really well overlooking the event lawn and the pavilion, the First Merchants Pavilion, and so we're excited about the actual old drive-through there. And the outdoor setting, and and how that may be an opportunity for some VIP areas, maybe even some beer garden areas, because it's easy to block off to accommodate all the restrictions you have there. Some, like I said, some corporate events. I think it's going to lend itself really well to just fitting perfectly into this park. So we're excited about that partnership with them, and we've already started, even though we don't have the building 100% taken care of yet. That's happening later on this week, but we've already started marketing and pushing First Merchants just because we're so excited for that partnership with them. So hopefully they're going to get more bang for their buck than they anticipated,
absolutely.
right?
Because you think of right along 32 there, and all the traffic that goes through Noblesville is everyone complains every day about how the traffic is slow. But you know, the one thing that I've always thought about parking and traffic and all that, that's not a bad thing, folks. There's a lot of cities that would love to have the problem of parking and those type of things and traffic.
That's why I'm considering selling a sponsorship on the front of my house right there on Connor, so that when traffic backs up there, we create some additional,
Absolutely.
college fund, right?
Absolutely.
Brandon, thanks for being here today. We're really out of time. We could obviously extend this conversation, but let's make the commitment now to get together again, maybe in April, have you back on the show. We'll have a little bit better idea of what the calendar year looks like from a programming standpoint out there. We'll obviously have been through a couple of checklist meetings out there and some audiovisual training and other things. And we'll have had the opportunity to engage the public and notify them about, the walkability of the property and other things. So do appreciate your time. Thanks for involving Main Street in the process from the start. And I think there's a lot of people with a great sense of ownership of this property. It's just going to lead to greater things for our downtown.
Absolutely. I appreciate being here. April will be our grand opening for the park. We're still working on the exact date, but it's going to be mid-April. We hope to have the actual park done here in November, and it will be able to be utilized on a soft opening basis. So if the weather's nice and the playground's up and open, then come out and use it. But we'll officially open in April, and we're looking to do a big event out there for that.
Okay.
So we'll probably, in that soft opening, may have Mr. Owens there playing the guitar on the stage area.
I don't know if I heard it directly, but Perry may have committed to underwrite a second band for the street dance. I felt like I heard that in there somewhere.
Somebody called me yesterday and said, "I just want you to know I was the first performer on your stage. I was up there the other day playing my flutes or something." So
that's good.
That's why it's there.
That's right.
Well, thanks for joining us. We'll be back. I can't remember if we're on next week or the week after, but check us out. We'll be here on This Week on Main Street.